want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. But recognize that he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. That's a new definition of greatness. By giving that definition of greatness, it means everybody can be great. You don't have to know about Plato and Aristotle to serve. You don't have to know the theory of relativity to serve. You don't have to know the second theory of thermodynamics in physics to serve. You only need a heart full of grace. Soul generated by love.
Hi, this is Information Man, and I'm pretty sure everybody is aware over the weekend we had the Super Bowl. And during the Super Bowl, you usually have your Super Bowl commercials. And if you notice, you had the Dodge Ram commercial, which was using a speech from Dr. King. And it makes me scratch my head, and it makes me say to myself, what is really going on? Why are we selling out the legacies of our heroes and our sheroes? Particularly Dr. King, because he tends to be the one that the corporations always like to put in their commercials. And when you look at the King family, they've had a history of using their father's intellectual properties, to push the economics into their pocket, okay? Selling their father's legacy, in my opinion, to the highest bidder of the corporations. Now, when you look at the Dr. King Memorial in Washington, D.C., even in that instance, they were looking for the highest bidder or for big time money for the naming rights to the statue in Washington, D.C. Okay? And here we have with the Dodge Ram commercial, the same sort of thing. Dodge Ram is projecting a situation in which they want to associate themselves with Dr. King's legacy. However, the last time I checked, Dr. King's legacy was never about corporations. It was never about selling cars to black people or cars to people in general, okay? The corporations are just basically trying to sell cars, man. And they'll do it at any way they can, okay? If it's using anyone's legacy, they'll do it. And what's sad about it is that most of these corporations like Dodge Ram, and I think a few years back, a long time ago, you had a commercial with Dr. King's image and speech, I Have a Dream speech, and an Apple computer commercial. And none of these corporations give a damn about black folks, okay? Where are these corporations when black men and women are being killed by police, when we're being racially profiled? Where were these corporations at when it comes to the things that black people go through, like unemployment? Okay, now you've got one Donald Trump who brags about he's helped black unemployment, and that he's given the corporations a 35% permanent tax cut, where me and you, it's not permanent. And so my question is, why do these corporations need to make more and more money and then use it at the expense of Dr. King's legacy, as in the case with the Dodge Ram commercial? It's despicable. I think it's disrespectful to Dr. King's legacy. I mean, let's look back at his life. During the last years or the year of his life, Dr. King got to the point where he was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Okay? Dr. King was a man who stood on principles. Dr. King went to Memphis to stand up, protest, as it relates to those black men that were killed and crushed and the sanitation garbage, machine, because there were sanitation workers, black sanitation workers, that were being treated unfairly. That's why King went to Memphis a second time, to get ready to get into a protest towards the corporations. King, during his last years, he was talking about going against the Pepsi Colas, the Coca-Cola industry, these corporations, in terms of their poor practices as it relates to people working on the job, human rights on the job. He was nowhere near being a man for corporations. And yet the Dr. King family continues to sell his legacy. It feeds and benefits them economically, but it does not do a justice to their father's legacy. Now, you may say to me, oh, Information Man, what are you talking about? That's their father. Why can't they make money off of the father's name? Dr. King went through a lot in this country, so let the family make money off of the name. That may be true. You may be able to say, hey, they have a right to use his name. But last time I checked, the King family, they don't even get along with each other. They're still fighting over intellectual properties. And if I'm not mistaken, you had Dr. King III, Dr. King's oldest son, who actually was one of the first individuals, along with Kanye West, Steve Harvey, a host of people, Jim Brown, who met with Donald Trump. The same Donald Trump who favors the white supremacists and say that there were fine people in Charlottesville. The same Donald Trump who is homophobic, sexist, he's all these different things. The same Donald Trump who talks about shithole countries. The same Donald Trump who is trying to ban people out of the country. The same Donald Trump who lies every day. And so the Dr. King family, Dr. King Jr. III, he meets with Donald Trump, okay? And then this family at the same time turns around and they're selling their father's legacy, his name, to the highest bidder, okay? Because this is really, at the end of the day, it's about money, people. It's not really about Dr. King himself. It's about how much money you can make people pay to use his image. My thing is that these corporations don't give a damn about black people. They haven't done anything for us. We should never allow the legacy of Dr. King or any other black leader, male or female, to have their speeches used as a way to benefit the corporations, which their bottom line is the dollar, baby. That's right, the dollar. They don't care about people. The only thing they care about is that you buy a truck. And with that said, I think we need to really examine how Dr. King's words and speeches are being used. We always get the I have a dream speech, but let's look at the fact that Dr. King was against the Vietnam War. He stood up for it. He did a speech. He had a speech called The Letters to Birmingham. He talked about those sort of things. And when you look at a guy like Kaepernick, seeing that this was Super Bowl weekend, Colin Kaepernick was standing up against taking a kneel during the national anthem, because he was saying that everything that's in the flag, in the anthem, does not represent, black people are not benefiting from the very ideals that this country was founded under. Now, that's something that Dr. King would stand behind. That's something that Dr. King would stand with. And I argue that if he was alive today, he would be in support of someone like Colin Kaepernick, because Dr. King was not in support of the Vietnam War. And how many of us alive today would follow Dr. King? How many of us alive today would support that brother and criticize that brother or not? Because you had many black people in the past that were critics of Dr. King. You had many black churches that were critics of Dr. King, did not want him to come and give speeches, okay? See, a lot of times we don't know that legacy because we get caught up in just the I have a dream speech, and we don't look at the speech that he gave when he was against the Vietnam War, why I'm against the Vietnam War, and then we downplay a brother like Colin Kaepernick, who stood for something, and then we turn around full circle, and you've got corporations like Apple Computer, and now in this situation currently, the Dodge Ram truck company trying to sell trucks. And Dr. King's words, language, speech, his life had nothing to do with corporations, had nothing to do with the bottom line of corporations. It had to do with the freedom and justice and equality that he wanted to bring to black people, people in general. And in his last days of his life, he was aiming towards protesting the corporations. So I find it disrespectful to his legacy into 2018 that we as black people, in terms of his family, would further enrich themselves by taking their father's intellectual words and putting it into a commercial. And it just shows you how far we as a people have fallen in terms of what we put as a priority. Okay? And with that said, I've said a mouthful. I want to thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel right down there. Hit the subscribe button. I want to thank you. I'm going to be back with more content. And I want to thank everybody out there for supporting me. But I had to make this rant because Dr. King is more than a commercial for a corporation. His life is more than that. And we need to keep that in mind. He didn't die and bust his behind and march and fight for us so that we can sit back and look at commercials, Dodge Ram commercials with him, with his speeches, his speech being used as the overdrop or voice overlay to a corporate commercial. What is wrong with us? We need to wake up and understand that our legacy is more than that. This is the Information Man.